All righty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Faith and Program Committee meeting of Tuesday, March 4th at the boardroom at the Catholic Education Center. To start off with our routine matters with A1, we're calling this meeting to order. For attendance purposes, we have all trustees present except for Trustee Herman Valoria and Trustee Thomas, along with Student Trustee Gia Sharma. I'd like to kindly ask everyone to please stand up to start our opening prayer.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord, during the season of Lent, teach us a new freedom. Freedom to reject comparison and to embrace uniqueness. Freedom to cut ties with greed and feast on love. Freedom to abstain from overindulgence and feast on self-control. Freedom to leave behind selfish thoughts and to focus on the needs of others. Freedom to fend off insecurity and to embrace grace. Lord, thank you for the freedom you bring. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Next, we move on to item A3, which is the land acknowledgement. The land is everything. It is what is given and will be here until the end. It includes, it forgives, and it is a constant reminder to work to do better. This reminder is not passive. It is a daily call to action that we must, as I used to say to my son when he was very young, always do more, a little more every day to make the land, to make everything better, more hospitable, more equitable, mindful of the dignity of all. As always, we thank the Mississaugis of the Credit, our local treaty partners who have been stewards of this land for generations. Together, we commit to beauty and peace and to fight injustice and vigorously, passionately, resolutely create a future with hope. Next, we move on to our item A4, which is the approval of the agenda. On our tope sheet, we have various items being distributed to trustees on the tope sheet. Other than that, could I get a mover for approval of the agenda? Moved by Trustee Stefano Pascucci. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. We have no declarations of interest this evening. Next, we move on to item A6, which is the approval of the minutes of the Faith and Program Committee meeting of January 14th, 2025. The business arising from the minutes has also been attached. Could I get a mover for the approval of the minutes? Moved by Trustee Anisha Thomas. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. We're moving on to our next item, which is item B, awards and presentations. With B1, we have Donna F. Boucher, the founder of Making Prom Happen, coming forward to do a presentation. Welcome, Donna. My apologies if I butchered the last name, but maybe you didn't hear, so it's all good.
Everyone. Okay, thank you for having us here tonight. Kathy, very grateful to be here. So just want to ask you all what you think the average cost of prom is for a student in Ontario. Going in and out, sorry. Okay. So average cost of prom for a student is $1,000. Many of the students in Peel region, that is their monthly grocery budget. It's more than their monthly grocery budget for many of the students. That's where we come in. So Making Prom Happen, we try to make prom and grad dreams come true for all the students in the region. So here's an introduction to our organization. I'm really sorry, I'm either super loud or you can't hear me. Okay, let's try this one. Whoa. Okay, everyone's awake. So welcome to Making Prom Happen. Our first event was in May 2023. It was a quick spur of the moment idea. Kathy jumped on board at the very beginning, and in only 6 weeks, we had gathered 300 dresses, not to mention an incredible selection of shoes, bags, accessories, you name it. And we were able to help 70 students. Last year's event was huge. We were at Bramalea Secondary School. Had managed to collect over 1,300 dresses. And we also expanded our inventory to include suits. So last year we were able to help over 250 youth go to prom or grade. Testing. Okay. All right, so next slide here. So we're back. This is our third year and we're even bigger. So this year we're at Turner Fenton Secondary School. We chose that location because it's central in Peel region for all students. And yeah, we have a lot of kids coming this year and we're still taking donations. So we have 3 gyms to fill this year. So we've moved from a very small local Montessori school to a cafeteria and a high school to taking 3 gyms up at Turner Fenton. So super excited. So prom is super important. I'm sure you all understand. It's building their self-esteem and their confidence. There's a huge emotional and social significance to the milestone. And of course, they're creating lasting memories. If all of you could think back, if you had prom, if you didn't have prom, and what would you like the kids to see for their prom? So that's what we always ask people to envision. So this is how we work. We start in January with our promotions, working on our social media. We send out letters and emails. Some of you may have seen them. We get our website up to date and we start looking for our location. I think we actually started that in September. We gather our donations. We have volunteer drop-offs all over Peel region. These are volunteers that open their homes to a lot of clothing. Kathy here has over 300 dresses in her basement alone. We educate our volunteers on sorting and tagging the dresses to make the event as easy as possible on the day. And we also have social media requests and our Amazon wish list. Amazon wish list is incredible. We get all the items that maybe we don't get donated from people. So they send us those as gifts. On the day of the event, going backwards. The students they don't have to, but we ask them to register for the event and choose a time to come in. And that's because last year we had a lineup around the building and we actually had to do crowd control at the door. It was crazy. It was good crazy, but crazy. So this year we have a registration with 15-minute slots for the kids to enter the building. There's no time limit for choosing their clothing. We're just trying to stagger entry. So that form's available on our website. That being said, if a student walks up to the building and they haven't registered, they'll still be admitted. We're not going to say no to anyone. We even have some students coming from out of area. We've asked them to come at 7 p.m. to allow all of our local region students time to look at the clothing and everything. So we really don't say no to anyone. So our big event, I get to drive the U-Haul. In the morning, I go from house to house. It's like reverse Santa Claus. I get to pick up all of the donations and we take them to the event. And in about an hour and a half, 2 hours, you will see basically a pop-up value village appear in the gyms, clothing racks and everything. We take about 40 to 50 volunteers for the day. Some of them are personal shoppers. Some of them are helping with inventory. Some of them with registration, checkout. We have raffle draws that happen. You name it, our volunteers are very busy for the whole day. At the end of the event at 7:30, it's like a MASH unit. Everything's taken down, everything's packed away, and we are out of there within an hour and a half to 2 hours. So it's a pretty insane day. So the biggest thing that we've worked on this year is building partnerships with the community. So with yourselves, with the Peel District School Board, with the counselors in Mississauga and Brampton, we've made some truly amazing partnerships and forged some great relationships in the community. So we're very excited for that. We are working on raising awareness through other local charities and youth groups. And that's something that we've focused on this year. Now that we kind of have our process down pat, we can start working on the other stuff. So this is one of the quotes from our volunteers. Having friends who are single moms and hearing how they were struggling to make sure their kids had a memorable prom experience. I just wanted to help in any way I could. And that's a resounding feeling throughout all of our volunteers. That's just one of them. So Kathy.
Thank you for having us as well tonight. Thank you. No, I have to figure out how to do this. Okay. So ways you can help. First of all, we're trying to have awareness. We've been working with both school boards for the last 3 years. We hope that it gets to the social workers, to the guidance counselors, to anyone who knows of a student who might be in need. We're also not selling this as only to students who are in need. We're selling it as to anyone who wants to come and get a prom dress, a prom suit, a graduation dress, a graduation suit, and also grade 8 graduation. We had last year over 1,500 dresses. Like, where could you go shopping and find 1,500 dresses? Everything is donated. Everything is free. We don't charge anything. We make sure that the items that we collect are in, we want to donate with dignity is our theme. If they're ripped, or like I had a beautiful dress with a pull and I realized I'm not going to put it out there. If it's dirty, we clean it. Not dry clean, but we wash it. We're very creative with washing. If it's not in good quality, we just don't want it. We don't, well, we'll take it and redonate it, but we're looking for appropriate prom wear. There we are. Okay, so we have trouble. Hard to find donations are things like small grade 8 boys suits. Mind you, some grade 8 boys are probably in men's suits. But the smaller boys, the size 14 to 16, the only ones we've been able to collect so far is off our Amazon wish list, which has been great. We've gotten 3 donated. Curvy size dresses. We don't want to turn away anyone. And of course, we do have quite a few size 0, but we don't have as many size 18, 20. And those are dresses that we are short of. And we certainly don't want to turn anyone away. That would be against everything we believe in. We have change rooms. We don't allow parents in there because of other students. We're very respectful. We have private change rooms if that's required. We want these students to have a great experience, and what we get out of it from their feedback is amazing, and from the parents, from the students, but also from the people who donate. I've gotten so many comments from people who are donating, and because they have that beautiful dress and didn't know what to do with it, and thinking that now there might be a student who maybe wouldn't be able to afford to go, or at least not have a dress like that. They're very happy to donate, and we're happy to receive. We have raffles, a lot of generous donations. Last year we had a gentleman donate 5 Uber Black gift cards of $100 each. We had tried the limo thing, but that wasn't going to work because you needed a credit card, what have you. So the 5 Uber Black gift cards was great. It gave 5 different groups of children or students to be able to go to prom with some style, maybe. We had gift cards donated that we were able to put in. You can see there was our gift bags. We've had hair salons. Actually, Market College this year has donated 75 hair updos, barbershop, our nails. So we've just been blown away this year by the support we're getting. And it's through contacts like we're here tonight that can help expand our little database of who we're looking for and who can help us. not used to a Mac. I'm not very good with this. There we are. So we're on Councillor Fonseca's in my neighborhood. That shows part of my basement last year. She was able to come and do a video shoot, so that was great. So this is what we really need. Assistance with getting the word out there and organizing possibly transportation for students who live too far from the event. We had one social worker contact us from Caledon saying, can I just come and pick up some dresses because it's too far for my students to get to? And we all know, it's not like a teacher can drive them, and if their parents aren't able to. So, we think, well, maybe somebody can donate like an Uber or something for these students who so they are able to come. I don't think it's right for a social worker to have to pick out a dress and hope it fits, sort of thing. We hope that anyone has their social media with the schools to put it out there for I know the students have grad chats or whatever, and we want everyone to know about this. We need sturdy coat racks if anyone has any contact there. I today had little clips tying mine to one other one so that it doesn't fall over. And of course, we're always looking for enthusiastic volunteers. And if anybody is free on April 10th, drop in. The smiles are well worth it. We have some more sayings. Oh no, is this going back? So, sorry.
So this is from one of the kids that attended last year. This is a quote from them. So they heard about this event from their friend's mom, who's a volunteer, and they decided to go. They said, I had dreamed about what I would wear to prom for years, not realizing that we wouldn't be able to afford it now. I didn't know what to expect going in, but when I came out, I had the dress of my dreams, shoes, a purse, and even some accessories. Thank you, making prom happen.
If anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer. And I see you, my daughter is a Catholic high school teacher, and I see one of her former teachers.
Oh, perfect. Oh.
No pressure there. You were really young when you taught her, though.
All righty, perfect. So thank you so much for that presentation, and thank you so much for everything you guys do. I'm sure you guys are changing the lives of many students who definitely have dreams and hopes of what prom looks like for them. So thank you very much, and I hope that our schools and individuals that are listening to tonight will be able to help you all out. That being said, do I have any questions or comments from trustees? I see one from Trustee Corbett. Go ahead, Trustee Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I love this initiative. I remember when you started, it's incredible to see how it's grown and how an idea from just a couple people then grew into so many people who've volunteered and helped to support and donated. And so I'm thrilled for you. Thank you, not just for joining us this evening, but for the important work you're doing to support our students. Because you're right, prom's not just about the dance. And the proms, the graduations, it's significant to the students and the families that we serve. The quote about approximately $1,000 per student, yeah, I don't think you're wrong in that way, because it's not just the prom dress, it's the prom ticket, it's the transportation, it's the shoes, the accessories, the hair. There's a lot that goes into it, and it is a financial burden for families. So thank you for making prom happen for all of these families.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Trustee Corbett, do I have any other trustees with any comments or questions? Seeing none, once again, thank you very much for your presentation, and I hope all is well on April 10th, and wish you guys all the best. Thank you very much.
We do have a website, www.makingpromhappen.ca. If you want to check us out at all, and we always have pictures and things like that. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, Trustee Bruno Ainika.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And would you send that presentation to to our staff who send it to trustees. I know hearing you reminded me of something that I was just speaking of. And making kids happy, experience something that in their heart they probably think that they will never experience. And you've given them that. And what I can say to you is, as I go to the schools of this board that I represent, I will be soliciting from my community in both elementary and secondary, because some of them have kids that are in grade 8 or were in grade 8, now in grade 9, maybe 10. And for whatever reason, we always, as parents, even maybe as students, we want to hang on to that suit that we will never fit into, or a dress that we will never, well, not me personally, but that young girls will never wear again. Yet somebody else can. It would just make their day. But if you could forward that presentation, I didn't look to see, but if you could, I would graciously appreciate it, because then I could share it with our community.
Is that something you can do, Cindy? Okay,
Inside.
it's taken care of. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Once again, thank you very much. Take care. All right, so next up, we're moving on to item C, which is delegations. We have a delegation coming forward with C1, Diane Borelli. Prior to the delegation, Diane, I'm just going to be speaking a few things in reference to the delegation. For those who may not know, Diane will be joining us virtually. First off, welcome and thank you for the delegation here today at the Faith and Program Committee meeting. I will just be reviewing a few points related to the rules and process related to delegations. You will have 5 minutes to make your presentation. This will be timed, and then we will signal you when there is 1 minute left. If you intend to use or begin to use the name, title, position of a staff member, or any personal or other information with respect to another person, including a member of the board or committee or a pupil or their parent or guardian, I will rule that you must address the committee of the whole in an in-camera session. Delegates can be critical of the board decision or make submissions with respect to a recommendation or decision. However, I will rule that your delegation is out of order and end the delegation if either of the following occurs. 1, the information in your oral speech is significantly different than the written speech provided. And 2, your speech, notes, and/or other materials contain, or if you begin to use the language that constitutes an invasion of privacy, breach of confidentiality, defamation of character, or is obscene, or discrimination against an individual or group of individuals based on a protected ground under the Ontario Human Rights Code. Once you have completed your presentation, trustees will be given an opportunity to ask you questions of clarification in relation to your presentation. And once questions of clarification from trustees are completed, your role in the delegation will be concluded and you'll be asked to leave and take your seat in the gallery. Well, in this instance, you can still stay seated at home and watch the meeting if you'd like. At that point, trustees may choose to debate the issue and may ask questions of staff. It is important to be aware that a decision may not be made on the issue at this meeting, and if there are no questions from yourself, please feel free to start your delegation.
Hi, good evening. So, yes, my name's Diane Borelli. I am a parent of 3 children in the system. I have a variety of areas that I have concerns with. So first, I would like to address the EQAO. I was surprised to learn that the EQAO program became AI generated. We lecture the students on using such programs as ChatGPT, which I'm totally with. But yet we use an AI to generate a standardized test. A standardized test is defined as a method of assessing student knowledge by giving all students the same questions and grading them in the same way. I would like to emphasize the same questions part in this definition. What I learned this year is that not all students are being given the exact same questions. The EQAO program seems to learn the students' patterns, and as they begin to answer questions correctly, the program begins to ask questions with more difficulty than a student has than those of students who have had trouble answering questions. These can include questions that their teacher has not spent much time on, and even questions outside of their grade level. This is no longer defined as a standardized testing, and what makes matters worse, this year the EQAO replaced the math exam. Already, this test has never been a great indicator of what they learn throughout the year, and it definitely is not worthy of replacing an exam that their educators would be in charge of creating. Then there is the rubric teachers use to mark tests and assignments. We have knowledge and understanding, application, thinking, and communication. And I'm unclear as to why the Ministry of Education made this unnecessary change, why 2 out of the 4 quadrants weigh more heavily from grade 10 to 12, why they weigh all the same in grade 9, why students are made aware of the change in weight when they move from grade 9 to 10. I just don't understand what happened to just marking the assignments or the tests as they are. It seems like an overly complicated method to lowering grades. Next, I would like to discuss educators and administration that defied board policies and how they are held accountable. One example would be this year, the board voted to remove any non-government flags from being displayed inside the schools. Yet we still see some educators displaying them in their classrooms, or a poster that reads, "Hate has no home here." Hate is a very strong word, and a poster like that can create division rather than unity. The Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board created a lovely and simple "We All Belong" poster that, in my opinion, should say enough. Another example of defying the board policy is the duty of an educator to provide an unbiased environment. Ontario's education policy aims to create unbiased and inclusive schools that support all students. In truly creating a safe and inclusive environment, all opinions should be supported. We have allowed politics to enter our schools, creating hostile environments, leaving students to either feel not safe in voicing their opinions or constructing an opinion to appease their teacher and avoid discrimination. You have educators who cannot separate their own personal views from their profession. If a student has an opinion assignment on a political issue, should that student base their opinion on their own truth or on what they know their teacher believes in order to receive a good grade? Is it fair that they know they will receive a bad grade if their opinion or on the matter goes against that of the teachers? Is it right that educators have political tangents in their classroom discussions, making those students with different views feel awkward or unwelcomed? How are these educators held accountable? Lastly, I would like to address awards. Every year, many schools present awards to those overachievers from the year previous. In this year's presentation, our school decided to remove honorable with high distinction. We were told it was a change in line with the ministry. First, I would like to know if that is correct. And second, why? We have students that, despite being a part of an extracurricular 5 days a week and part-time work, still manage to score a 90+ average, an accomplishment not many achieve. Should they not be rewarded among their peers? Could they possibly be an inspiration to their peers? They should be celebrated in their own category and not just honorable. Not that honorable status is not an achievement, but for example, out of 300 students who achieved honor roll this year, 97 were of high distinction. I encourage the board to encourage all schools to include both categories. Much like we acknowledge highest grade overall, we should acknowledge those that achieve above standard. In conclusion, I feel we need to retreat back to being concerned with grades and less with political stances. We need to figure out why our math scores are so low, how to create critical thinkers and leaders, how to properly put in place policies that actually have the children in mind. It seems that not all students belong or matter unless they fit the social construct. All children learn and think differently. Somewhere along the line, it seems to have been forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diane, for your presentation and your delegation here at the Faith and Program Committee meeting. At this time, I will ask trustees if they have any questions to yourself. Any trustees with any questions? Seeing no questions, once again, thank you very much for your delegation. And next, we will be moving to questions of staff by trustees. I will make a list. I have Trustee Paula, Trustee Mario, and Trustee Bria Corbett. Any other questions? Seeing none, Trustee Paula.
Thank you. And through the chair to staff, my first question is EQAO. Max, you always explain it really good. Can I ask you to explain the EQAO testing, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, good evening to everyone. EQAO is indeed a standardized test, and it works to ensure that all students are assessed on their achievement of the Ontario curriculum. Indeed, in recent iterations of the assessment, they have moved to a tool which adapts questions as students move through the test. That is done so that as students demonstrate an achievement in a particular area, they can then, they being EQAO, can then stream the next set of questions, or maybe just one more question, to help us as educators understand better what it is that students can do and can't do in terms of the curriculum. So think of it as a refinement, always trying, as we do ourselves as educators, to get to know the learner. So EQAO's stance on this is that the more specific the questions are to strengthen weaknesses for a particular student, the better we can understand them and the better we can serve their needs. That being said, when it comes to the overall EQAO mark, consistent sets of questions are used for students. They have never always been the same for all students across the province. There has always been a bank of questions that are used and reused over time to ensure the integrity of the test and to ensure that we are supporting children with a variety of opportunities to enter the question, because not everybody has the same experience.
Thank you. My second question to the staff is, could staff provide us with the understanding of benchmarks that secondary schools use for their awards? Can we perhaps survey the secondary schools to determine which schools are honoring the honor roll with high distinction, whether it's 80% or 90%?
So through the chair, I would say that it's fairly standard for all of our secondary schools to use 80% as a benchmark. I don't at this point know which schools honor a 90% benchmarks and which do not. That would be easy information for us to collect, and we would be pleased to do it.
Please, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Paula. Next, I got Trustee Mario.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up to that, 60 and a 70, or 70 and an 80, and the student would get a high distinction. Is there not supposed to be a standardization so that a child that goes to school A and goes to school B, and they're basically seen on paper first, or computer processes, whatever, but at the end of the day, the question is this: do they have the same opportunity to come into classroom and graduate, being recognized for their significant work?
So through the chair, students achieve within all of our classes at levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, so 50 to 60, 60 to 70, 70 to 80, and then 80 and above is level 4. High distinction is sometimes, and as I said earlier, not in all schools, conferred to those students who achieve typically 90 or more, but it isn't something that is done in a standard way at all award ceremonies in all schools. And as mentioned, we would be pleased to see which of our schools are going in which direction to work to ensure that all students' needs are met across all of our schools.
Thank you. I would look forward to that. Like, it's the idea that you have a student in Ottawa wants to go to U of T, and you have a student in Toronto that wants to go to U of T in Mississauga, or so in Toronto. The question is, are they being treated the same through admission? So that's the concern I have, just balance. Second question, Mr. Chairman, if I may. The last line in D1, you were told it was a change. It was a change in line with the ministry. Can you please elaborate on that, if in fact that is what was said?
So through the chair, it is my understanding that the ministry does not wade into high distinction awards for students. The ministry awards students who achieve 80 plus as a cumulative average among their 6th highest scoring grade 12 credits with an Ontario scholarship. But beyond that, they don't recognize, for example, a high distinction qualification.
Thank you for mentioning that. I would like the staff, or a parent meets with the staff and asks a specific question: is who is we? We're told that there was a change in line. So the question is, who is we? The parent would have that answer. And what was the exact response from the ministry. So we have it in writing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Trustee Mario. Next, I got Trustee Bria.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. Our board promoted an event. EQAO is hosting free live seminars, webinars for parents and guardians to help them support their children in learning math. And the webinars, March 6th and March 26th, are both full, which is fantastic. There's lots of interest. Although it's not a Dufferin PL event, can staff follow up with EQAO and see if either more registrations can be allowed or a new date can be provided, or if a recording maybe could be shared with parents that aren't able to attend the live?
Through you, Mr. Chair, and, oh, sorry.
Do you have the answer? Oh. I'm sorry. Assistant Superintendent Kevin Welding did connect with EQAO and they've confirmed they opened up another event for April 1st. But I apologize, Associate Director. I thought you didn't know that.
Thank you. And through the chair, could that information be shared with parents as well? Because I believe some schools are just sending out the information about the March dates, but unfortunately, they're already full. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions? Trustee Darrell D'Souza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And through you, the delegate mentioned that EQAO testing is being done using AI. Is that true?
Through the chair, EQAO uses an algorithm which is AI generated, which provides students with increasingly refined levels of questions depending on the answer that they gave to the previous question. So that we as educators and they as a provincial authority can better understand what students are good at and what students require more support with. EQAO is a very good measure of the Ontario curriculum. So understanding exactly which expectations students get and which ones they need more support with is very important to us as educators.
Does that mean we look at individual scores of students and then pay more attention to students who are probably not at a certain level? Because if AI generates a question, if, for example, you and me, they ask me what's 2 plus 2, I say 4. They ask you what's 20 multiplied by 642, and you give that answer. Okay? And you have to ask Max.
12,840, but
Perfect.
through the chair.
Now you continue with 10 questions at that level. I continue with 10 questions at my level. 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 8, 16, 16 plus 16, 32, and you go on with whatever square roots and all that stuff. Now, both of us end with 80%.
So through the chair, what the testing aims to do is to stop asking students questions that they have clearly shown mastery in. So once you've asked me what 2 plus 2 is twice, it's not going to ask you again. It's going to refine the question and ask you 2 times 2 or 2 minus 2. It's not meant to catch different types of students. It's actually meant to help us better understand all students within levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it simply means that we don't ask the same types of questions over and over. We ask different types of questions so that because we as school boards receive back very detailed results from EQAO, so that we can adapt our teaching so that EQAO can advise the ministry more fully on where we're doing well and where we need to keep working. An example of this would be that students typically get good at knowledge and understanding. So 2 plus 2 is a good example. But students have shown over the past number of years that they require support in applying where 2 plus 2 makes a difference. And how can the curriculum, the ministry's professional development efforts, and our efforts as educators help with that?
It's complicated now. I need to comprehend that.
Go back to 2 + 2.
Exactly.
Until he hits integers.
No, we can have this discussion offline because I need to understand further as to what kind of results we get back as a board and what do we do with those results? Do we then segregate students and educate them differently in different cohorts or how we manage that? But we can speak about that offline. Thank
Through
you.
the chair, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Trustee D'Souza. Any other questions? Trustee Del Rosario?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Following to Trustee Daryl D'Souza, now I want to hear the answer actually of the last question because through the chair, before the kids go for the exam, for the test for EQAO, our educators, our teachers normally help them to study for it. How are they going to help the students study if the questions that's coming up is like generated by AI?
So through the chair, one of the ways that our teachers prepare students for EQAO is by looking at past EQAO tests. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a bank of questions that keep on being asked. So the AI generation, one of the ways why it's being used is to make sure that the test doesn't get so long that we ask all kids 5 hours worth of questions because kids get tired when they're doing a very long assessment. So we look at that bank of questions, and once a student has shown mastery of a particular concept, it moves on to another. So 2 things. The first answer to your question through the chair is that we use examples from past tests. We also look at the types of categories within the assessment, and teachers do a very good job of preparing our students to answer within each of those categories, understanding that sometimes more than one category of knowledge is in the same question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions? Seeing no questions, thank you to our delegate for the delegation this evening. Next, we're moving on to our next item, which is item D, which is updates, information reports from trustees for receipts, starting with D1, regular reports for the Ontario Catholic School Trustees Association. Trustee Del Rosario.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick reminder that the Oxta AGM is coming up very soon. I think Michelle has sent out a reminder to everyone. If you're signing up, please let her know so she can register you and if you need the room. The other reminder is the CCSTA AGM happening in June. That one too is already, the registration is now open. So just a reminder to trustees, if you're interested, please sign up. Let Michelle know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we move on to item D1B, which is good news items. Do we have any good news items this evening? Seeing none, we move on to item E, which is updates, information reports from committees for receipt. We have none. We're moving forward to item F, which is updates, information reports from administration for receipt. F1 is Catholic Education Week for the year of 2025. Superintendent Murphy.
Good evening, and through the chair, the report is on pages 15 to 17 of your agenda. Each year, the Ontario Catholic School Trustee Association sponsors the provincial initiative Catholic Education Week, which is highlighted this year during May 4th to 9th. But this event has now become one that encompasses our entire year celebrating the work of Catholic education.
Oxta is pleased to celebrate and honor the Jubilee year, which began this past Christmas Eve, 2024, and continues until Epiphany, January the 6th, 2026. In keeping with the promotion of Catholic identity in the 29 Catholic school boards across the province, this is a special opportunity for Oxta to place Jesus Christ and the teachings of the Catholic Church at the center of our Pilgrims of Hope journey. This year's theme is Catholic Education, Pilgrims of Hope. L'éducation catholique, pèlerin de l'espérance. The quote for Catholic Education Week is from Pope Francis's letter for the Jubilee year. We must fan the flame of hope that has been given to us. And that was from his letter of February 11, 2022.
Oxta's Catholic Education Week Committee has provided school boards with many resources, special prayers for all schools to use, opening week packages, the Catholic Education Week logo and graphics, planning frameworks for liturgies and Eucharistic celebrations, an Advent kit, a monthly Jubilee Pilgrims of Hope bulletin, and the Catholic Education Week resources for our staff to use. Additionally, and we don't have this in the report because we just solidified it, the Ontario Catholic School Trustee Association curates a wonderful list of beautiful Catholic resources, library books, and I'm pleased that we will be buying 4 of these texts for each of our schools and creating additional work for teachers to use in celebrating Catholic Education Week with these texts. Program is planning a Jubilee Youth Day during Catholic Education Week, and more information will be forthcoming. We will be celebrating International Women's Day this week, and once that event is over, we'll be full gear on our Jubilee Youth Day celebration. That concludes our report, and we're happy to answer any questions regarding the celebration of this most important event, Catholic Education Week.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Do we have any questions? Seeing no questions, once again, thank you very much. Next, we move on to our next item, which is item F2, our multi-year strategic plan updates and next steps for 2024-2025. Superintendent Odo.
Good evening, and through the chair. The report that is on page 18, the 2024-2025 school year is an important point in the trustees' multi-year strategic plan. It is the midpoint of this school year, as well as the overall midpoint of the cycle of the MYSP. Much progress has been made to support the 5 MYSP values since its inception in 2023. This report provides an overview of the MYSP's development, operationalization to date through the CBILC, or the Catholic Board Improvement Learning Cycle, and the Local Catholic School Improvement Learning Cycle, or CSILC. As trustees are aware, consultation work on the 2023 to 2027 MYSP began in the fall of 2022 and involved consultation with various stakeholders and a number of resources and data to support development of the MYSP. Also through this consultation, this is the time when the MYSP was also rebranded and our new logo was achieved. The MYSP retained the same values as its predecessor based on the sense that believe, excel, respect, thrive, and trust continue to form the foundation of Catholic education in Dufferin-Peel. Minimal revisions were made to the CBILC goals, given that they continue to guide meaningful and important work to support each of the MYSP values. Our progress to date. Recent EQAO assessment data indicates strong achievement in elementary literacy despite slight decline since 2021-2022 school year. In mathematics, gains occurred in primary math in 2023-2024. However, junior math and grade 9 math demonstrated a continued decline. In response to the data and recognizing the Ministry of Education's renewed focus on both mathematics and literacy learning, DPCDSB has continued to support students in both math and literacy. To date, priority schools receiving dedicated mathematics support have shown promising gains, which will be reviewed as this school year progresses. Feedback from principals and teachers, as well as students, has shown an increase in overall student confidence in math compared to last year. In compliance with the ministry expectation to screen all students in Year 2 kindergarten, grade 1 and 2, over 835 staff have been trained to administer Acadience, a reading screener that identifies components of reading that students require proficiency in to be successful readers. Staff are now focusing on addressing gaps in reading skills identified by this screener, and these results are informing the instructional practices and supports that classroom teachers in the program department are putting into place to improve student achievement in literacy. To further support this work among all schools, our Director of Education has established 4 academic committees to guide DPCDSB's curricular focus: the areas of primary literacy, Junior Mathematics Committee, Grade 9 Mathematics Committee, and the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test, or OSSLT Committee. These committees are led by family of school superintendents who work collaboratively with our school administrators to support school needs. In addition, the Director of Education has also supported the development of an Administrator Wellbeing Committee in each of the families of schools, in recognition of how school administrators continue to face increasing complex local challenges while navigating the intricacies of curriculum implementation. As we look ahead to the spring of 2025, staff in the Policy, Strategy, Research, and Safe Schools Department are focusing on monitoring the MYSP system progress and the coordination and publication of the 2025-2026 CBILT goals, Strategic Plan to Dismantle Anti-Black Racism, and the Student Achievement Plan, or SAP, that is required by the Ministry of Education. Table 1 in the report, Surveys and Feedback Tools for Spring of 2025, outlines the data collection tools that will support the creation of the CBILT fact sheets that we publish on our public website. I'll go through a number of those data collection tools now. The Catholic Community Culture and Caring Survey addresses the MYSP values of respect and thrive. The Education Act requires that school boards administer at least once every 2 years to students, parents, and guardians and staff an anonymous survey of school climate. And our CCCC School Climate Survey satisfies this requirement. The Ontario Catholic School Graduate Expectations, or OCSGE survey, addresses and supports the MYSP values of believe and excel. This survey assesses student application of scripture, sacrament, and Catholic social teaching to daily life among students in grades 8 to 12. This survey also contains the Ministry of Education grades 8 and 12 exit surveys. Mathematics and Literacy Attitudes and Practice surveys addresses and supports the MYSP value of excel. These surveys assess students' attitudes and approaches to learning in math and literacy in grades 4 through 12. Our Catholic Digital Citizenship Survey addresses and supports the area of Thrive. This survey assesses students' presence and communication, health protection, critical thinking and literacy, and an avoidance of negative online behaviors in grades 5, 7, and 10. In addition to progress monitoring for the 2024-2025 school year, staff will be undertaking a comprehensive review of the CBILT for 2025 to 2026. To ensure continued relevance, staff within the Policy, Strategy, Research, and Safe Schools Department will consult with other departments and multiple stakeholders to review the current CBILT goals and their underlying action steps, as well as how best these can be monitored for the following school year. As we prepare for the 2025-2026 CBILT, trustees can expect to see the infusion of language related to our call to social justice and responding to Catholic social teachings. That concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Do we have any questions from trustees? Seeing no questions, once again, thank you very much for that very thorough presentation. We're moving on to our next item, which is item G for trustees committee administration reports requiring action, with G1 being naming of the Mount Pleasant No. 2 Catholic Elementary School. We have Superintendents Verano and Odo.
Through the chair, in accordance with Policy 8003, naming of schools, new and amalgamated, DPCDSB is required to select at least 2 names for the future Mount Pleasant No. 2 Catholic Elementary School. The anticipated opening date of the school is September 2025. DPCDSB staff have adhered to policy regarding the naming of school by engaging in consultation with the Catholic community, the Catholic School Council, the local pastor, and the area trustee. They've also surveyed the Mount Pleasant No. 2 through feedback, the community through an online survey. Additionally, possible names were sought through the local pastor and the Catholic School Council of St. Daniel Componi Catholic Elementary School, which will serve the Mount Pleasant No. 2 community. As the policy requires at least 2 names presented to the Board of Trustees for approval and submission to the Archdiocese of Toronto, the 2 names that are being presented in alphabetical order are St. Joseph Vaz and St. Ruth. Appendices 1 and 2 to the report provide a brief biography of each of the proposed names for trustees. That concludes the report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? I have trustee Mario Piscucci. Any other trustees for questions?
Fine, Mr. Chairman.
No question? Perfect, thank you. Any other questions? For sure. The local trustee for the school, I believe, is trustee D'Souza? What do you think?
In fact, I believe, no. Yeah, I believe there was a survey taken with the community and the results are with Superintendent Verano.
Through the chair, we did survey several families. It did seem as though we had a 68% for St. Ruth and the remainder for St. Joseph Foz. 68%.
Any other questions? No problem. Thank you very much, trustee Mario Piscucci. No, trustee Mario has a question. I was just announcing him next.
Defer to the handsome one. Through you, Mr. Chairman, regarding the school, you said you surveyed the parents or the families. What does that mean? 2? Or many more?
We did have up to 100.
That's fine.
100 families that did complete the survey. There is one family that completed the survey several times, so our research department did only accept, that once.
Really? Okay. What am I supposed to say?
Thank you very much. Any other questions? I just have a question, if I can pass it over to trustee Corbett. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, how many elementary schools do we have named, how many schools do we have named St. Joseph?
Through the chair, there are 5, I believe. St. Joseph Streetsville, St. Joe's, Mississauga, yeah. 5. Elementary and secondary, or just elementary?
Sure. If it's, you've answered the question mainly. My only concern is, do we have a St. Joseph Elementary in Brampton as well? So my only concern would be with many St. Josephs, an emergency situation occurring, someone calling and saying, hey, the school is St. Joseph, missing the last name, and now they're going to a different school, right? Because in a sense of emergency, they're just gonna do.
Well,
That being said, I don't know, that's my only concern. I don't know what others are thinking when it comes to that. Was that thought about when that name was brought forward? For you, Madam Chair?
go ahead.
So through the chair, as was highlighted by Superintendent Odo, a variety of stakeholders were consulted, including the local pastor, the local Catholic School Council. So yes, there was consultation. St. Joseph Foz is not just St. Joseph, but understand the trustee's comment, very valid. And ultimately, it seems as though of the 2 names brought forward, it was the less preferred. But there was still a significant number of people in the community who did select it.
So through you, Madam Chair, do we have to send 2 names forward? Can we just choose a name as a board of trustees and then to the archdiocese, or does it have to be?
Through you, Madam Chair, our policy requires that we send 2 names to the archdiocese.
All right, okay. That's pretty much it from my end, Madam Chair.
Thank you, trustee Xavier. I have trustee Stefano Piscucci next.
Thank you. Through Madam Chair, first time around with this, so forgive me for my question. There's over 10,000 saints recognized by the Roman Catholic Church. How did we come to 2?
So through the chair, I mentioned the process that we went through in terms of consultation from the various stakeholders. And those were the names that were brought forward. Yes, there are lots of other names. Many names were suggested to the various stakeholders, and this was the short list that was agreed upon.
Okay, so just to confirm, and again, first time at this, so forget my question. So 5 names were provided, and they said, yeah, you know what, that's a good one, that's a good one. Let's put that on a something, and away we go.
So, through the chair, everyone who voted was also given the opportunity to suggest an alternate name. So we did have about 18, I think we had 18 additional names that were suggested. For every single one of those names, there was only 1 vote. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you, Trustee Stefano Pascucci. I have Trustee Mario Pascucci next.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just so that I was looking at a destination textbook, or destination phone book. St. John Bosco, St. John Henry, St. John Fisher, St. John Paul II, St. John the Cross. Wait a minute. St. John 23rd, St. John Baptist, and there's only 2 St. Joseph at elementary. So I'm just saying at elementary, I'm not saying secondary. So where I'm coming with this is that in fact, I mean, you've got to recognize the local community and their requirements. So they're just saying there's some points here that made balance and whatever, but we should be putting more names out, like go into the fact that our esteemed chair said, designating of a school causes a bit of an issue. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Trustee Mario Pascucci. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I pass the chair back to Chair Xavier.
Thank you very much, Trustee Corbett. We move on to our next, sorry, this requires
Through the chair,
action.
through the chair, there's a motion.
So that being said, could I get a mover? I will read the motion as soon as I find it. There we go. Perfect. The motion is that the Board of Trustees approve for submission to the Archdiocese of Toronto the names St. Joseph Vaz and St. Ruth as options for the naming of Mount Pleasant No. 2 Catholic Elementary School. Can I get a mover? Moved by Trustee Daryl D'Souza. All in favor? Any?
It's okay, Mr. Chairman, don't worry.
No, sir. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. All right, next we move on to item H, which is additional business. We have no notices of motion nor any additional business this evening. Moving on to item I, which is questions asked by trustees. I'm just going to prepare a list. We have Trustee Mario Pascucci, we have Trustee Stefano, Trustee Bria. Questions? Anyone else? Student Trustee Rahim. And if anyone else has, just let me know. First off, Trustee Mario.
Mr. Chairman, through you to admin. Question regarding naming of a school. In fact, when you look at it, is it the plaque itself, specifically the plaque? Does the plaque carry the names of the trustees at this point? Can be named on those plaques? I think, if I'm correct, the day of naming, or when we suggest, those list of trustees will be on that plaque. Is that your understanding too as well?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. And can I ask and concern an issue that we tried to deal with before, and I think we have, is that all names on a plaques and moving forward will be full names of trustees?
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you. That includes full name, full last, first name. That includes first name, right? A full first name.
Through the chair, full first and full last, yes.
Thank you very much, Trustee Mario Pascucci. Next, I have Trustee Stefano.
Thank you very much, and apologies for not providing this question to staff beforehand. Hopefully you can give me an answer. I think it was Trustee Bria Corbett who asked the question a while back as to what's the chances that we can have report cards sent out, parents' emails, rather than the students' emails. And I know that at that point, staff was saying that they're going to look into it. Where are we with that? I can tell you that I received but a handful of calls, because apparently I'm a trustee that understands password changing for student accounts.
So through the chair, that is something that I would have to review with our Chief Information Officer unless Superintendent Murphy.
Yeah, sorry for not providing that information. I think Mary Ann's got her hand behind you, though.
Through the chair, I know we're looking into it. It would require creating a parent portal, and I know ICT is looking into it. It's just ensuring the absolute security of that portal. But we'll follow up and provide updated information in issues and events.
Thank you very much. And through you, Mr. Chairman, another question on the report cards. How many parents actually signed the report card saying that they viewed it? Again, that came up at one of my parent council meetings saying, did you know? And I said, well, funny enough, I found out about it after the fact. So I don't know if it's a check and balance thing, but I'm assuming that if a parent has to sign it, like you would sign the envelope to send back if it was in paper, that we would probably want to start sending it to parents, hopefully as quickly as possible.
So
I don't need a stat or a number right now, so.
No, through the chair, I'll speak a little bit from experience as an elementary principal. A goodly proportion of students do not return their report cards. The number of students who return signed report cards tends to diminish as people make their way up the grades, which may not be surprising. That being said, I do know that in many schools, an effort is made to ensure that people get the report card back. As was said by the trustee, it is a way to ensure checks and balances. The parent portal, as mentioned by Director Mazzarato, would be a way of we would know at the click of a button who had accessed that report card and who had not. Again, in issues and events, we'll provide trustees with a status update.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Trustee Stefano. Next, I have Trustee Bria Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 3 questions. So the first question through the chair is just regarding, we have March break next week. Students will be off March 10th to 14th. What's our policy regarding tests, assignments, major projects for the week after students come back? So that week of March 17th, because many of our students and families, they travel during this time. They want to disconnect from school for their mental health and well-being over the break, and without the added stress of having to work on their break in order to have everything ready for when they get back. So I'm just asking if we can share what our policy is again, and if this can be shared across the system.
So through the chair, we are very mindful of the priorities that the trustee has just mentioned. I'll turn the microphone over to Superintendent Murphy to provide some more details.
So through the chair, thank you very much for the question. I had the privilege of speaking to the Principals Association today, and I made it very clear that the principal's responsibility is to ensure that teachers understand that additional workload is not to be assigned during the March break, and that on Monday, the day after March break, the 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day, which I would hope that teachers would want to honor even though it's Lent, that there are not assignments and tests due the day back from the break, especially given the traveling conditions that some parents might face because the weather has been a bit challenging this year. Having said that, if a teacher has assigned an ongoing project that a student has had significant notice about, it is the student's choice to work on that project during March break, but they have to make those arrangements respectfully with their parents because it is really important to emphasize that, especially for our senior students, there is limited family time for them to spend, and that is our first priority because we are a family-centered Catholic board. The messaging was very clear, and I'm confident that our principals will take that back to our teachers and make sure that they understand for the well-being and also for the student achievement that reflects the best possible product. Students are not overtaxed during that March break and are not coming back Monday in a panic because they've been up all night Sunday.
Thank you, Superintendent Murphy. So does that mean the Tuesday is fair game? Just asking for a friend.
Well, through the chair, as a former teacher, I did not want to mark work that was reflective of exhausted students or stressed out students. So yes, Tuesday will probably be a very busy day for our seniors, but I would hope and trust, and I have absolute confidence in our teachers, that they will negotiate, especially with their senior students, what the best day, albeit Tuesday or Wednesday, but I would imagine for senior students, in the next 48 hours of that week will require a lot of their attention. But the policy, not the day after. Hopefully that helps them somewhat.
Thank you for the clarification. Through the chair, my second question's just around elections. So with the SNAP provincial election that we had on February 27th, unfortunately, we weren't able to move the February 14th PA day to align with that as we have been able to do in the past. There are still concerns with our schools, especially our elementary schools, having open access to the public to vote when they have designated poll locations. Even though we have presence of a security guard, maybe not at some of these locations. Some of our elementary schools, they don't have easy access to the gym, which means the public is essentially going through many hallways to get to the gym to vote. And some also need access to the washrooms. So all this to say, we don't know when the upcoming federal election will be. There's rumor possibly April. So I'm just asking if we can maybe keep this in mind. Maybe we can consider moving the May 16th PA day once we have confirmation, obviously, of the federal election date. I recall last year we moved the May 17th PA date to April 8th, but that was for the eclipse, different. But hopefully with a heads up, we'll have some time, we can give parents notice and also get that approved by the ministry if possible.
So through you, Mr. Chair, it is a preference for staff, obviously, to have as few people as possible in our buildings during election day. A big unknown is when the election will be, and we will at that point review all dates to see if there's anything we can do in response to the question that was raised.
Thank you so much. And my last question, Mr. Chair, through you, just
Sorry to cut you off, Trustee Corbett. Just to that same point in regards to elections, Trustee Anika.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I voted at the public school this year. That's where my polling station was. They had the same challenges and opportunities. I will tell you there were people walking around, and I could only imagine, never mind the non-parking that was there, which was another challenge. But maybe when the next election happens, and as far as I'm concerned, it can't be soon enough, if we could change the APA day, if possible, to that day and discuss it with our coterminous board, because I know that the cost, it would have to be a mutual thing, because I don't believe that this board should incur $75,000 additional cost to accommodate an election because we want to keep our kids safe. I believe that the Peel Board would go for it. I can't speak for them and I won't, but it just makes common sense. But if we could, and we know early enough, is it possible to bring the calendar committee of the past together, or can we just make that decision?
Through the chair, we would have to submit an amendment to the school year calendar, but it is something that we did last year, and it is a possibility for sure.
If at all possible, I know, so I received a couple of calls from the schools of this board. One of them has an excess of 500 kids. They had enough parking because the church is right there, but they had challenges with people wanting to literally, where's the bathroom? Where's this? Where's, I mean, I get people have to go to the bathroom, but not when the kids are around. So if we could do that for the next election, that would be most appreciated, or look at it.
Thank you very much, Trustee Anika. To that same point, I have Trustee Stefano Pascucci.
I had to vote over at a high school, and I can tell you I had a totally opposite experience. Wasn't paying attention. I walked through the wrong doors, and I was greeted by a bunch of students in uniform telling me, "You're not in the right spot. You just go this way, please." Actually, it was a welcome committee, and it was such a great experience. I actually called up the principal after and I said, she says, well, what happened? I go, nothing. Everything was fantastic. So some schools did well. They had lots of signs. Other schools didn't, obviously, but I know that Elections Ontario and Elections Canada have a pretty good pulse about what's going on when it comes to elections and when they're going to happen. So much so that they are ready to go as soon as it's called. So I don't know if there's some way that we can reach out to those two organizations and see if they can provide some type of indication of when. Because I know that I can tell you that, you know, working a handful of elections, I was called 4 or 5 months before it was even an inkling that it was going to come out saying, get ready. So hopefully they can provide us some details.
So through the chair, it would be my understanding that neither Elections Ontario nor Elections Canada would release that date to a school board in advance. But it may be worth a try.
Aren't we the best board in the province? Like, come on.
Through the chair, we are absolutely the best board in the province.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Trustee Stefano Pascucci. Back to your questions, Trustee Bria Corbett.
Thank you, and through the chair. And just a comment with respect to Trustee Stefano Pascucci's experience. You're not the individual I'm worried about walking through a school. However, I do have serious concerns about strangers, and maybe well-meaning strangers, but strangers nonetheless, who have access to our schools with our vulnerable populations in place. And if there's something proactively, preventatively that we can do to ensure the safety of our students, I would like us to take those measures before we have an incident that then requires us to put in place different policies. Through you, Mr. Chairman, just my last question is regards to the recent announcement from our board about the revised delivery model with our chaplaincy services. I know our trustees, myself included, received a number of concerns regarding some misinformation that had been shared and spread. And I know we have students and families and parents that have expressed concerns. Can you please provide some clarity to the decision and what this means for our schools?
So through the chair, we have been working on providing significant amounts of clarity over the past number of days. I'll ask Superintendent Murphy to provide a brief summary.
Through the chair, thank you for the question. Perhaps the best way to begin with this is that, and I mean this very respectfully, all employees in any business are regularly reviewed in terms of the efficacy and the importance of their role. And this employee group, like all employee groups, because they fall under my department, we have been looking through their pastoral plans, which they have submitted as a collective from their schools, into what the best practices are that are executed under the leadership of our chaplaincy team leaders. So in reviewing this information for the last couple of years, we have seen patterns that we believe very strongly we can elevate to make the experience of our students a much more Christ-centered and a much more pastoral experience. And I mean that respectfully. That is not a criticism of the amazing work that our chaplains do. As a Catholic teacher, as a Catholic parent, as a Catholic administrator, I am deeply indebted and deeply formed by the many holy and faith-filled chaplains that have accompanied me on this journey and continue to accompany me in this role. And I know one there that is in this room right now that always has my back from the perspective of ensuring that my thoughts and my actions reflect a Catholic school system. So the recent announcement perhaps caused a great deal of angst because it is my experience as an English teacher and as a religion teacher that sometimes people interpret more than they read. And not a lot of information was provided because we are still discerning what the best model will be to benefit our students. There was no elimination of positions. There is a reorganization of how those positions are filled. We have a responsibility as employers to respect the legal requirements of those reorganizations. But because my family is very much involved in business, one of the things that I have learned from them is that you always ensure that jobs are protected. And we have a director who ensures that jobs are protected. So there's no job loss. And perhaps in the communication of the legal requirements, that wasn't as clear to people because it is human nature that when we make changes, people don't necessarily absorb the changes. So the model that we are developing is still being framed because there are a number of groups that I have to consult and listen to their wisdom and quite frankly have some prayers about in order to make the best decisions for a position that will not only continue to serve our secondary schools, but also expand their support to our elementary schools. And in addition, I do want to make this comment, and I mean it very respectfully. Our chaplaincy leaders are there to collaborate, to lead, to inspire, and to pray with us about our responsibilities as Catholic educators and as a Catholic system. But they have the privilege of working with many people, many of whom are in this room, who are here because of their faith. And the responsibility of a Catholic education does not rely on one person in a system, as much as our director safeguards everything about our Catholic experience. She counts on the faith and the commitment of each employee, albeit a caretaker, a secretary, a CYW, a chaplaincy team leader, a principal, or a teacher, to ensure that the experience that our students have in our schools is distinctively Catholic. So the updating, the revisioning of the role of chaplaincy is to ensure that we are providing the best services, first and foremost, for our students, and also for our employees in terms of their faith development, because as Catholics, we choose a particular path to follow, and we have particular obligations as Catholics to ensure this system reflects our faith. It is regrettable that when you start changing things, people read into it when that is not what was sent out. I have had the opportunity to speak to a number of people, a number of groups, including the principals today, to give some clarification along the lines of what I've just answered to you. And as the plan becomes more fulsome and is completely respectful of the dignity of those particular workers and also takes care of our most precious possession, not that you're possessions, but you are the most precious to us, our young men and our young women, we will ensure that that is clearly communicated to all groups.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Corbett. To this point, Trustee Bruno Iannico.
No, if you have a list, please, I have a question on that point, but it is a different question. It deals with it, but it is not specific to the question that was asked.
Sure. I have student Raheem White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you. At our Senate meeting last week, we were asked a plethora of questions regarding chaplaincy leaders as well. And at the time, we had no answers to those questions. And I think for the sake of clarifying for the public, and especially our students, can staff clarify if each school will have a chaplaincy leader? Will each secondary school have a chaplaincy leader?
Through the chair, yes.
My second question, were students, parents, or chaplains themselves included in the conversation surrounding this change?
Through the chair, there have been ongoing discussions about all employee groups that are part of program in terms of the execution of their job, their workload, and how we best do that. We have not started formal conversations because, quite frankly, we have legalities that we had to respect before we could do that. I can assure you that it is not a dictatorship in program, that any decisions that are made because of the wisdom and collaboration of the many brilliant people that I have the privilege of working with. So the answer to your question is that there will be consultation, because that consultation will ensure that we provide the best framework for what we want out of chaplaincy for our schools.
Thank you. And my third question, I'll preface it by saying our teacher chaplains are very much devastated. In talking to our senators last week, it was an emotional conversation, not just with them, but even at school. The tone, the environment walking through the doors this week has been very much different compared to others. Our school morale has, I'd say, dropped since this announcement. And I think it's due to the, I don't want to say lack of communication because that's not the correct term, but I guess the lack of clarity initially. And our teacher chaplains went through extra years of schooling, many up to 4, some even more, to transition from the classroom to chaplaincy. And when students are asking them, well, how do you feel about this? And asking them what this change is going to look like, they're telling us they can reapply to be a non-teacher, non-unionized chaplain. And many are saying they're going to experience a pay cut, or their pension won't be the same, the benefits won't be the same, so they don't feel as if they're going to reapply. And it's my opinion, and that of many of our students, that these teacher chaplains bring a unique perspective to their role. They were classroom teachers who understand how teenagers work, how youth work, and they transfer that understanding to their role as a chaplain. And the chaplaincy space for many is welcoming because we know these people understand us. So I guess, is there some assurance or a plan to, I guess, match their salary and benefits so they can reapply?
So through the chair, in order to be respectful of all of the groups that I must work with on many levels, the authorization on the I can't even say the word. Thank you. I couldn't get it out. It's too much air needed for that. My asthma's like holding on here. In order to operationalize that, we would not have that discussion in a public forum. What I did make clear when this announcement was made, and Deacon Ray has been of great assistance with me on that, is that if people have questions or concerns, call me. I made the phone calls despite being quite ill. And I'm happy to share what that means later. But anybody that called or texted, we responded to if the calls and the texts were respectful. Change is very hard, and this is about dignifying and respecting everyone. So there's a lot of speculation out there. I do not engage in speculation, and it concerns me that that speculation is brought to the forefront. What I do admire is that as a student, you have expressed the same kind of regard for these people who have influenced you, and that I respect. However, this is also an employee event, and so it's a different conversation. But rest assured, we have a director that ensures that the dignity of each employee will be respected. And that has been her mandate since day one. And it is perhaps a little unfortunate that people want the answers now when she has made it clear this must be thought of and must be presented in a way that respects all involved. So I don't engage in speculation in your position, not that I would ever suggest what anyone should do. The best thing to say to people is, I'll take that back. We don't have all the details, but I do know the commitment of our director and our senior staff to Catholic education is very profound.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Student Raheem White. It's just to that same point, I'm going to pass the chair over to Trustee Corbett, if it's okay with you, Trustee Yanniga, if I can just.
Please do.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair. The first question I have when it comes to, just because Student Trustee Raheem White brought up salary, are chaplains funded when it comes from the ministry? When we look at our funding for teachers or any staff within our schools, are we funded for chaplains? Through you, Madam Chair.
Through the chair, chaplains aren't funded.
So,
I also want to note that currently in this board, we have a group of chaplains that do not belong to the Secondary Teachers Union who have a different pay scale. Then, so we have two different pay scales happening for chaplains in this board.
So-
But none of it is funded through the Ministry of Education.
so through you, Madam Chair, where does the funding come from when it comes for chaplains within our Catholic board?
Through the chair, we can put that in issues and events, but typically it becomes part of, discretionary spending.
Okay, and then, thank you. The second thing that you had mentioned is we have two groups of chaplains within our board. One is non-teacher chaplains and we have teacher chaplains. And I mean, so there is an inequality between the two groups for doing chaplaincy work, but one group is paid a different amount compared to the other group. So my understanding is we are just trying to streamline and create equality between all groups.
Through the chair, that's not the main motivating factor here. The main motivating factor here is that chaplains who are teachers, it limits how we can call upon them to do other work in the board. So doing adult faith formation, for example, that would not be within the purview of what a secondary teacher is. A secondary teacher is a secondary teacher that works with secondary students. The ability to occasionally run retreats with our 7 and 8 students would not be feasible under the current model. I can share in other boards. So there's other models in other boards. There's either boards that would have non-teacher chaplains, all of them, or there are boards that would have teacher chaplains in those positions, but those teachers are also teaching a course. So they may do, some chaplaincy in the school, but they would also be assigned to teach credit-bearing courses. That's not the model in our board.
So through you, Madam Chair, if we look at other boards, the teachers who are chaplains are not full-time chaplains at those schools.
Through the chair, that's correct.
But we are still, and just to confirm through you, Madam Chair, we are ensuring that every high school will have a full-time chaplain at that school.
Through the chair. So the chaplains, and this is where I think, some of our internal language that is important sometimes confuses, not intentionally, but it confuses people who may not understand our internal language. But the model is going to be that they will be organized centrally. That doesn't mean they're all going to sit up on the 3rd floor. That's not what that's intended. It means that it's an opportunity to bring them into the religious ed and program department. Deacon Ray will have some responsibility around leadership around that, even around their own formation. We will still be carrying a complement of 26 chaplains for September. They will have a home base, so to speak, of a secondary school, but it is our intent to be able to maybe 1 day a week, half a day a week, they may be running or being supporting our feeder schools at elementary, whether it's running a retreat, etc. I spoke to our secondary principals today. They themselves had indicated it's not unusual for the chaplains not to be in their school 5 days a week, 5.5 hours a day. They may be out doing other things. Sometimes they support other work associated with that school. But the intentionality of this model is to expand it so that there's opportunity to provide support for adult faith formation, to provide support for elementary schools. And because secondary teachers, it's very specific around what their limitations are. That's why we're looking to a model that would have individuals that have more flexibility in what they can do to support and continue to uplift vibrant faith communities in our board.
Thank you so much for that. So through you, Madam Chair, I just have two comments. My first comment is just, I was happy to see the amount of uproar. Well, I can't say happy to see, but I was happy to see the amount of positive things that chaplains have done from students, with the amount of students that reached out and continually posted online when they heard a rumor going around saying chaplains are being removed. I think at that point was when I heard from students that, hey, chaplains have played such a huge role in my life throughout secondary school, not just from students in schools, but graduates as well. So I was really happy to hear that from a lot of students, to see, because you don't hear it on a normal basis where the chaplains have really touched our students' lives in supporting them through times of need. And I'm happy to hear that they're not removed from schools and they still will be within our secondary schools. The second thing you had mentioned that I just want to comment on is the fact that we will be able to provide support for grades 7 and 8s, because now these students in our feeder schools who are in 7 and 8, when they get to secondary school, they have a familiar face, and that is the chapel. That is a place that they know that they can go and trust to be able to get the support that they need. And I think that is a huge plus when it comes to this change, because it's creating a familiar face for individuals who are going into high school. When it's a nervous time in their life, they know that the chapel is a sacred area and a sacred space that they can go for that support. So that is just it for my comments, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Xavier. Next, I have Trustee Bruno Ainika.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Chair, the question I have is, we are confident that we will have 26 people, chaplains in our schools.
Through the chair, we're going to be working after the March break to put a posting together and put that out there. We've already had individuals even before this that have been submitting applications.
And Madam Chair, I've experienced in the 3 secondary schools that I share with my colleagues, each of the chaplains that I had experienced at the 3, at St. Paul, at Father Gates, and at St. Martin's, each had the impact that Sean, that you mentioned, that had on kids. I can tell you, and not to embarrass Deacon Ray, but at graduation, he always received the loudest applause. He always had young men come up to him, but the applause always says it all. If they say nothing or there's just a slight, it says a lot. Each of the chaplains that I had, or that we had, that were at the schools, 2 of which were non-teaching members. And the chaplain now that is at one of the schools that I share with a trustee, last name Pascucci. Now I don't want to, it doesn't narrow it down, because it can narrow it down to 2 other schools. The chaplain there had already planned on going to elementary before this even came up. When they were hired, it wasn't even mentioned that he was going to do that. The fact that he said to me, well, my plan is to do this, and then I heard through the communication that he wanted to do that to begin with, which to me goes back to what my colleague, Sean, Trustee Xavier said. It's a familiar face. So if you're facing a challenge, you already know that person. So I think this is a good idea. I would like at one point to hear what the plan is to get some chaplains. I do know that there was a chaplain that did apply. So a while ago, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out. I don't believe it's going to be a challenge, but I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, trustee Bruno Iannica. I have trustee Stefano Pascucci next.
Thank you. Just very briefly, through you, Madam Chair. Is it possible for, and I understand this is operational in nature and not something that trustees get involved with because this is hiring of staff. But if you can reach out to us to see where we would like to see it as well, possibly. Obviously, you have everything you're saying is great. We hear from our parent community about how things could also be put into this position as well. I've already heard from 3 or 4 people in my community already saying it's a great opportunity. How about if they do this at the elementary schools and so on and so forth? So I'll be more than happy to reach out to you guys regarding what I've been hearing. But if you can also just be mindful that we also hear from the community as well, because this is no longer an internal Dufferin and Peel thing. It's now obviously outside of the staff side of the business.
The chair will solicit that feedback from trustees.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, trustee Stefano Pascucci. Any other questions? Trustee Sean Xavier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just through you, one thing that student trustee Raheem Wade had mentioned was these teacher chaplains have experience working with students. Can we ensure that these new chaplains, if we do have to hire, they do have a lot of experience with either youth ministry or working with young individuals? I'm assuming that is a prerequisite.
So through the chair, the job description is being formulated as we speak, and I'm certainly grateful for some of the references perhaps that have been made from this table. I may have been quoted as saying if I could borrow some genetic material and replicate some of the people that you have introduced to me, I think we will be in a good position. We'll be in a brilliant position for our students in terms of what else we can enhance our chaplaincy program with.
Thank you very much. And just one thing through you, Madam Chair, we do have numerous individuals that are teacher chaplains that are very upset. And I'm not too sure what more we can do from our part, but is there any sort of support or something that we can give these teacher chaplains in assisting them with either their decision or just kind of having that clear communication with them?
Through the chair, our HR department is managing that.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, trustee Xavier. Any other questions? Back to you.
Thank you very much, trustee Corbett. We have, moving on to item J, we have no declared interest items this evening. We are moving to our in-camera session. We will be taking a 10-minute break, if you're good with 7-minute break. So we'll be back here at 8:50. All righty, so can I get a mover for it to get out of session? Moved by trustee Corbett, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. We will be back at 8:50.
March 4th, 2025. We reviewed administrative appointments and transfers. We reviewed student achievement data, and we addressed questions of an in-camera nature.
Thank you very much, Trustee Corbett. Moving on to item M, which is our future meetings. Our next Faith and Program Committee meeting will be on May 13th, 2025. Could I get a mover for adjournment? Moved by Trustee Del Rosario. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. Thank you very much.